The Truth Can Get You Killed, a Paul Turner mystery. Author Mark Richard Zubro. Publisher St. Martin's Press, New York. Narrator Eric Aust. Chapter 15. Meade gasped, turned and ran. His gym bag banged against a plastic reindeer on the lawn as he bolted across it. The reindeer plopped over, and the right antler shattered on a patch of ice. Meade flung the gym bag away. He ran toward the L station. Turner leaped over the reindeer while Fenwick lumbered around it. Fenwick quickly fell further behind. It would be a long time before he won a race with an athletic 22-year-old. Turner wouldn't have caught him either, except the kid's winter jacket got entangled in the door handle of the L station. Meade yanked at it for a few seconds and then thrust himself out of the coat. By then, Turner had him by the scruff of the neck. The kid squirmed and punched for a few seconds. He hit Turner in the middle of his winter coat, but multiple layers of heavy clothes prevented the blow from having much effect. Puffing spasmodically, Fenwick arrived. He grabbed the kid's wrists. Meade yelled, "Help! Robbery! I'm being mugged!" while continuing to squirm. "Hold still, you little shit!" Fenwick barked. A small crowd began to gather. Turner held up his identification. With a sudden thrust, Fenwick knocked the kid to the ground, sat on his butt, whipped the kid's left arm back, applied the handcuff, and then snatched the other wrist. "That hurts," the kid yelled. Turner saw tears start down his cheeks. "It's supposed to," Fenwick said. They yanked him to his feet. Turner searched him, but found no weapons. Meade was silent as they brought him back to the apartment house, picked up his gym bag, and proceeded inside. "We need to see your apartment," Fenwick said. "I don't live here." Turner banged on the manager's door. It burst open as if the occupant were eagerly listening with his ear to the other side. Fenwick pointed to Mike Meade. "He claims he doesn't live here. You are going to show us an apartment. Of course he lives here, and he pays his rent on time. Malcolm, what's wrong?" Meade hung his head. "He couldn't identify himself earlier," Fenwick said, "but now he knows who he is. Probably kind of a Generation X, a dark night of the soul type of thing." "Oh," the manager said. To Mike Meade, Turner said, "Oh, we can talk to you here, down at the station or up in your apartment." "In the apartment," he muttered. The manager looked disappointed that he wouldn't be able to be part of, or at least witness to, more of a show. "Any help you need," he called after them. Fenwick stood near the entrance with Meade, while Turner inspected the apartment. The heat was on, and the atmosphere crackled with dry electricity. The apartment had one main room with space slightly larger than an alcove for the kitchen. Small refrigerator, two-burner stove, tiny sink, even tinier table on which they piled their coats. In the living room, a fold-out couch was the only furniture. It stood next to a short, squat radiator, painted white. The closet was part of the hallway leading to the bathroom. The storage space for clothes consisted of three narrow drawers. One had underwear, the other neatly rolled up socks. The third, two sweaters and two pairs of jeans. Four neatly ironed shirts hung on a rack attached to the top of the door. The bathroom gleamed in the cabinet were a razor, a shaving cream, toothpaste, and a toothbrush. In the narrow space, a tall, thin radiator provided heat. They left the cuffs on the kid and put him on the couch. Since he'd run, they'd keep him in restraints. Fenwick sat in the chair. Turner leaned against the doorway leading to the closet. "What's going on?" Turner asked. "You're Malcolm. The manager knows you as the one living here. And you're Lance Thrust, the dancer at Au Naturel. Why does Mike Meade go through all this elaborate deception?" "Why the hell do you think?" "Why don't you tell me?" Turner said. "Have I done something illegal?" "Your father has been murdered. His son is leading a double or triple life. You ran from the cops. I think that gives us a wide latitude in finding out what you've been up to." Mike Meade stood up. Fenwick planted himself in front of the exit. "I'm not going to run," Mike said. He nodded over his shoulder at his still cuffed hands. "Can't you take these off?" "No," Fenwick stated. Mike Meade wore white athletic shoes, faded blue jeans, a hand-woven Guatemalan shirt, and a sheepskin vest. Turner did not remember him as one of the dancers from New Year's Eve. Meade walked to the one window looking out on Loyola Avenue. He stretched his arms and shoulders as much as he could against the cuffs and leaned his forehead on the glass and spoke to the street below. He muttered, "Everything is so fucked up." He was silent for a few moments, and then turned and leaned his shoulders against the window and continued, "I haven't been in school for more than a year. I didn't tell my parents I quit. I had a full academic scholarship to the university. I just dropped out. And part of the reason was that I got sick and tired of my gay friends asking me how my dad could support legislation that denied gay people their rights. And when I told them he didn't know I was gay, some would be sympathetic, but lots of them thought I should confront him. That I owed it to the gay community, whatever the hell that is. One of my friends wanted to out me, sort of the reverse of the way that straight Colonel did with his gay son. How that would get my father to support legislation favorable to gays, nobody ever said. Look at Phyllis Schlafly and her kid. He's gay, but she's still against gay rights." "You never told your dad you were gay?" Turner asked. "I hadn't." "What happened?" "I left school a year ago, Christmas. I needed money. Mom and Dad gave me an allowance, but it wasn't nearly enough for me to pay expenses on my own. I kept an address off campus. My parents gave me enough so that I could just pay the rent on that one. They sent everything to that address. I couldn't get any kind of job in Bloomington. I didn't know what to do. What the hell was I supposed to do? I've got no skills, no degree. I used to hang out in one of the gay bars in Bloomington. Once or twice, guys had offered me money to go home with them. They were old and fat, so I said no. And when I'd been living on beans, bread, and water for 2 months, I thought about selling myself. I figured if I could be more selective, maybe I could handle it. I talked to a friend I knew who was a hustler. He'd begun dancing at All Natural. I liked that idea even better. If I didn't want to be a call boy, I wouldn't. I'm lucky to be in decent shape. My friend brought me down there. I applied, auditioned, and got the job. I could dance and pick the guys I wanted to go home with when I wanted. I made a good money, enough to set me up here. You hustled, Fenwick stated. Meade shrugged as best he could. Sure, I found out I liked making guys feel good for a few minutes. I was good at making old guys feel loved. Is that so bad? Why not just go home? Turner asked. Just tell them? Meade interrupted. You're cops. You're not gay. You wouldn't understand. No. I meant just tell them you quit school. Thousands of kids do it every day. I wasn't going to live a closeted life at home. I wanted to make it on my own. I wasn't really doing that in Bloomington. Everybody talks about coming out as if it were so much safer and easier than it was 25 years ago. And for some people, maybe it is. For me, it wasn't. My father was a horrible tyrant. Did he abuse you? Turner asked. Not physically. It was emotional control. I had to measure up. I had to be perfect. Being gay was not part of being perfect. I wish I wasn't gay. If someone offered me a magic wish, I'd wish I could change. I'd rather be straight. I hate being gay. What happened? New Year's Eve? Turner asked. I wasn't in Bloomington. I'd gone skiing in Aspen for 3 days with a wealthy client. That kept me out of the house for a good part of what was supposedly my Christmas vacation from school. I wouldn't have to be in my dad's presence. After the client was finished with me, I relaxed for a few days by myself. I flew back through St. Louis and spent a day there. I was flying back that night to go to work at the bar. I didn't want to miss my New Year's Eve shift. You can make a lot of money dancing on New Year's Eve. The weather in St. Louis was terrible. For a while, I didn't think we'd be taking off, but finally we did. 3 hours late. I didn't even think about my dad being at the airport until we were in the air. I couldn't remember when he was supposed to leave. I wasn't even sure he was leaving on the 31st, much less what time of day. I met a friend at the airport. I figured this next part out later from what my dad said. He saw me from a distance and tried to catch up. He didn't know I was going to be there. Before he could catch up, my friend and I kissed and hugged goodbye. After that, my father didn't approach me. He followed me to the L. It was crowded with the people rushing back from the airport, trying to beat the jammed highways. I never saw him. I was late, and I only had my gym bag, so I went straight to the bar. I took the L back and then a cab from downtown. The traffic was still a mess, so it wasn't hard for him to get a cab and follow me. I never even looked back. Who would have noticed? Nobody expects to be followed. I sure did. Carter said, Your mother and sister never mentioned anything about any fights between you and your dad. Why would they? They know I wouldn't kill my dad, but mentioning the fights would have made me a suspect. They lied to the police, Fenwick said. Well, golly, I'll bet they're the first ones that ever fibbed to you, Fenwick said. You've got a smart mouth, somebody who just ran from the police investigating a murder. Sorry, I'll go back to being passive and intimidated just to make you happy, Fenwick said. As long as you keep talking, I'm happy. Turner said, No one where your father worked or any of his friends said anything about fights between the two of you. Mike Meade continued. We might be arguing like mad before a guest comes to the house. But once somebody else walked in, you'd have thought we were Ozzie and Harriet mixed with the Brady Bunch. You really think it's that odd that a family keeps its business to itself? Who was the friend you were with in St. Louis? Fenwick asked. Who I was with has nothing to do with the investigation. Not answering makes you look bad, Fenwick said. I don't have to tell you, Turner asked. At the bar that night, did you hear the announcement Billy Gary made about your dad being in the bar? No. Billy made an announcement? You know who he is? Yeah. He's not a close friend, but I know who he is. Does he know who you are? No. None of them did. Only one of them even knew where I lived. That was one guy I brought back here. He must have told you about this place. My moment of lust was a mistake. What happened between you and your dad at Au Naturel? At the bar, I changed and made it just in time for my first set. What time was this? A little after 10. How long did you dance? About 15 minutes. Was it worth it? Fenwick asked. What do you mean? How much money did you make? In 15 minutes? I had over $100 and 2 offers of a great deal more. Turner looked at him. Young blonde, a few boyish freckles, broad shoulders, a narrow waist. Men would pay a great deal for what Mike Meade had. What happened with your dad? After my 4th set, sometime after 1, I saw him while I was dancing. At first, I couldn't believe it. The crowd had started to thin out a little by then. He just sat in the darkest corner, the one on the other side of the pinball machines. The wildest things went through my mind. What was he doing there? Was my dad gay? And this was his way of coming out to me? He'd made all those horrible rulings, and he was a closet case. I was ashamed of him more than I'd ever been. It was supremely weird being in a sexual situation with your dad sitting there. I was also curious. Maybe a little scared. Why? He has a temper. Nobody we've talked to said that. At work, he was this right-wing saint. To me, he was a terror. How did he treat your mother and sister? He was good to them, but I was the son. I had to be the best. That night, I didn't know what to do. I was barely able to finish that set. He knew I saw him, and I couldn't stop looking at him. After I was done, I went back to the dressing room and put on my clothes and went back out front. It's up to us if we want to go out and work the crowd. Work the crowd? Fenwick asked. When we're not dancing, some of the guys go out and nuzzle up to men who gave them money, especially those who paid more than $1 or $2. It wasn't really necessary. That night, with all that booze and wild partying, the guys were paying well. You confronted your dad. He was still sitting where I had seen him. I walked up to him. I'll never forget it. He paused, wandered around the room, stared out the window, and finally sat back down on the couch. He stared down at the maroon, rose-patterned carpet. He wouldn't look at me. The first thing he said was, "How could you be so stupid?" I said, "Dad, I'm gay." He said, I'm not as stupid as you. And partly I was kind of embarrassed. I mean, your dad seeing you mostly naked being pawed by a bunch of strangers. It's like thinking about your parents having sex. I'm sure parents don't fantasize about their kids having sex. I was also pissed off. He still hadn't looked at me. Calling me stupid had been one of his manipulations when I was a kid. When I was little, he'd say, "Do you want to be stupid all your life?" I came to hate it. When it was certain that I'd won a full academic scholarship to college, he and I had a huge fight. The next time he called me stupid, I was determined that the next time he said it, I'd let him have it. What happened? It was the night of the senior prom. He'd been leering and talking all night about the prom being a rite of teenage passage. I told him it was just a dance. He told me not to be stupid. We had a shouting match that lasted half an hour. My mother and sister had to get between us, or we'd probably have hit each other. "Does your mother or your sister know you're gay?" Turner asked. "My sister does. Mom doesn't, although she might have guessed." "You went to the prom?" Fenwick asked. "You can read a few headlines about kids taking same-sex dates to the prom. It doesn't happen. Not in the real world. At least, not in my real world." He looked at the two cops. "I tried to have sex with a girl I was with. Nothing happened. I couldn't get it up." "Does that shock you?" The detectives remained silent. "It shocked me and scared me. The week after, the guy I wished I'd had the nerve to take to the prom turned out to be as interested in me as I was in him. And that's when I admitted to myself I was gay. That shouting match with my dad wasn't the first, but it was the worst and the last. We avoided each other a lot after that. The summer vacation after high school, I worked as a counselor in Wyoming at a Republican youth summer camp. Those people are real crazies. And then I went away to school. But when I came home, like for the holidays, everything was really tense. We avoided each other. I'd go out with friends, me, anywhere, except in his presence. Anyway, being called stupid sets me off, and that night at the bar, I got really angry. "Didn't people notice your argument?" Fenwick asked. The noise level in the front room of the bar is usually a zillion decibels into the danger zone. New Year's Eve is worse. You have to shout to be heard inches away. They couldn't hear us. Most everybody looks at the stage or people they know. "What else did you say to each other?" I positioned myself so he was wedged between a bar stool, the wall, and a pinball machine. He'd have to trample over me to get out. He finally glanced in my direction. I said, "I'm not ashamed of what I do. I am not stupid. You are. You're the ignorant bigot in the family. You're the one who can't write his own decisions on the court, who has to get other people to write them. You're the one who hasn't had the brains." He said, "I'm not the one stupid enough to be a whore." I said, "What are you doing here? Do you like what you see?" For a few seconds, I thought he was going to hit me. I probably deserved it. I know I felt like hitting him, and he certainly deserved it. Finally, he said, "This place disgusts me." I didn't say anything for a minute. Then I asked him how he knew I was there. That's when he told me about the airport. I can't believe it. A few minutes in either direction, and we'd have never seen each other. No snow in St. Louis, and he might still be alive. What do you mean? He'd have gone on to Montreal. He'd still be alive. And then what happened at the bar? Turner asked. He said, "If you leave with me now, we'll save your mother a lot of grief." I told him that was a crock of shit. I said that he shouldn't hide behind my mother. And then I said, "I'm gay and proud of it." He swept his arm around the bar and said, "You're proud of this?" That's pathetic and stupid. I lost my temper. I told him to fuck off. I told him he was a Neanderthal creep. I told him hateful things that I am never going to be able to take back. Mike leaned forward and stared at the floor. Turner couldn't see the young man's face, but he saw tears falling onto the carpet. As a teenager, I hated him so much. The last year or so, I thought I'd come to understand him. I wanted to come out to both my parents. I almost did this Christmas. I wanted to do so bad. I discovered I needed their approval more than I thought. I wanted to end the pressure of hiding so much of my life. living one place with them, thinking I was somewhere else. It was awful. I pictured myself sometimes talking to my dad for hours, convincing him, and he'd realize he'd been wrong about gay people. Now, that will never happen. Mike snuffled the snot in his nose for a moment and then resumed. I said lots of hateful things that I can't take back. I didn't wait for his answer. I just turned around and left him there. I went back to the dressing room when I came out for my last set. He was gone. Turner unlocked the handcuffs. Mike wiped his face with his hanky. He looked at the two detectives. Turner said, "We have a source who says he saw you with your dad at the Kennedy Federal Building." That's not true. Turner almost believed him. Here was a gay kid in pain who just had his father murdered, and he wanted to believe the son had nothing to do with it, but his cop instincts told him the kid's last statement was a lie. Fenwick said, "You'll be in the film from the security camera at the Federal Building." "It wasn't me." "You were angry enough to kill your dad," Fenwick stated. "But I didn't." "What did you do after work that morning?" Turner asked. "I came back here. The next day I was in and out. I called my answering machine in Bloomington from here to get my messages. That's how I knew I was supposed to call my mom." Dana Sickles said, "You didn't have a phone," Turner said. He glanced around the apartment. "I don't see one." "I have a cellular phone. I wanted as few people as possible knowing where I was. I didn't want even an unlisted number here." "Why did your father follow you around town? Why didn't he simply go back home?" "I'm not sure. I told him about the bar and that I was going to work. My father always did what he felt like doing. He was the ruler of the roost. It was a very Republican thing. He was more important than anyone else. So he should always get his way in what was best for him." "We're going to have to hold you until after we look at the film from the camera at the Federal Building," Turner said. "I wasn't there," Fenwick asked. "Did you kill your dad?" "No." "Why did you run from us earlier?" Turner asked. "Maybe I'm not as bright as I think I am." Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold: to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides, and in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.